All right, I'm going to try it again. I just started one of these and it cut off. Anyway, I'm Rick Harsh, writer and of novels mostly, and uh, chief editor of Cronus Amistad Books. For example, we printed this. It sold its thousandth and second copies. America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots: A Diagnostic by Phil Friedenberg, illustrations by Jeff Walton. Uh, that's probably oh, and for those of you who don't know David Vardaman yet, Suggestion Diabolique is an extraordinary book of four short novels and one short story, and I recommend Easter first. It's one of my all-time. It is my all-time favorite short novel. Take that, stranger. Anyway, Pedro Paramo, I consider that a novel, not a short novel. Anyway, those two were compared recently, or somebody posted both of them. And anyway, this is my mind going off, probably to try to delay talking about the untalkable, which is Jews and Gaza. Now, I've never been careful with my language, and I don't intend to get careful. There are certain things I've known from early on not to call people. And, with black people, it was very easy, because I was a fan of Muhammad Ali when I was a preteen. And I read quite a bit about race in the United States vis-a-vis sports. And, but with Jews, my first two girlfriends were one in kindergarten, one in fifth grade. We're both Jewish, and to this day, I don't know how I knew that, why I knew that, or whatever. I was a suburban Chicago boy back then, and we had terms for I knew the terms for wetbacks, spics, whatever, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know which was which ones are Puerto Ricans, which ones are Mexicans. I didn't know, but I knew that they weren't as explosive as the word nigger, which is not explosive when Mark Twain uses it, or who else uses it? I don't know. Injun. I have the example of someone calling a Native American, referring to him as one politely, and the Indian going, I ain't no fucking native, I'm an Indian, and in my book, The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas, I called them what I figured they were called back then, and had the research to back it up. They were called Injuns, that's what they were called. I don't know what the Indians called the white people. I read to get a taste of the mountain man language, and so there's all these tribes. There are probably some things in common, but I don't know. I think my favorite slur against white people is the Chinese. I don't know the I think Gao An but I don't remember if that's Mandarin or Cantonese. Means dog eyes. So what I'm trying to get at is that I never had to be careful when talking about Jewish people, and as I grew up and met more Jewish people and became friends now and then with one, slept with one now and then, the term became even less important to me because it wasn't important to them either, except for one, and but I didn't know it at the time, and she was the woman I was sleeping with. She wasn't, a Hindu or a Buddhist or and I wasn't afraid to ask, and I wasn't interested to talk about it, but on October 9th, I saw something alarming written by her on Instagram. I don't remember what it was, and I'll never find it again because I was blocked within a day or two. And I thought, from what she wrote, I thought, oh fuck, this sounds terrible. I mean, it was sort of it was not specific to Israel; it was specific to Jews, and I thought, oh no, not another synagogue shooting, you know, and there's something really horrific about Jews being attacked in the United States that doesn't compare, in my mind, to Israelis being attacked in Israel because they're being attacked by occupied people, and this is international history. If you follow it, believe in it, as supposedly all of the signatories of all the conventions do, which leaves Israel off the hook in a couple of cases, but not the United States, who have been refusing to punish settlement since the first time they vetoed a UN resolution, but the United States has been supporting Israel despite Israel attacking the Liberty in '67, despite their violation of the laws of war and pushing settlement since the '67 war, and so now I don't know what the population of the West Bank is right now, total, but I've heard figures for the number of settlers now, and it ranges from 700,000 to 950,000. I from what the little I've heard, I'm guessing it's closer to 700,000, but who knows? It's way too many. The propaganda that seeped into me from Leon Uris when I read that book Exodus, and before I saw Paul Newman miscast as Ari Ben Kanan. I would have thought back then, the settlement. What's wrong with settlement? They're going to build a kibbutz neighboring to the Arabs, and they'll trade and they'll all get along. I didn't know back then that it was part of a great project that could only be exclusionary and lead to the expulsion and or killings. Well, that's a form of expulsion, isn't it? Of all Arabs. Well, anyway, so I went straight to all news sources to find out what had my long ago girlfriend and still friend gotten so upset about, and then I found out about October 7th. The news was still sketchy on the 9th, what was going on, and it would remain sketchy for a long time. And one of the reasons for that is because of all the lies that were spread. For instance, the number of people killed is obscured by the fact that the Israelis killed a lot of their own people with tanks and helicopter gunships, and there have been many extremely good authoritative columns and shows, YouTube shows I call them, that have debunked the whole systematic rape theory. And so they still talk about my friend and the director of the movie we're making, Portrait of a Drowning Man. I know. You now that Kissinger's dead, you wish it was Netanyahu, but it's not. He's drowning in a metaphorical sense, probably, but not quickly enough. Things are still brutal and difficult to live with in Gaza. I mean, difficult to live with for people like me, who are safe from Israeli bombs, presumably. Let's see what what is it, the you know, Welcome Home Daddy or whatever it's called. Anyway, the AI selection and deduction process that is used to kill, or has been used to kill, tens of thousands of innocent people, and maybe some. I don't know what guilt is in this case. I don't judge, like the ANC. I would never judge the ANC for their so-called terrorist activities. In such a blatant nightmare apartheid state as South Africa. And so I have the same approach towards Israel. But back to Jews. So my Jewish friend was very alarmed, and when I found out what was going on, I didn't think it would be in good. It wouldn't be good form or good taste to um, argue with her. I had no interest in arguing with anybody. The only people I argued with were people who brought it up to me. It turned out that my director had a lot of arguments to make in support of Israel, but he didn't really know the history at all, and but he learned it quickly, and he's a very independent-minded person, and we talked a lot, but mostly he researched, and he came to the conclusions that I've reached to a degree. I don't think he accepts the Hamas attack as justified. I do, and that's I guess one of the extreme anti-Semitic. Uh, I accept it. Call me anti-Semitic. I don't give a shit. Uh, and I'll get to that. I'll get to why I don't mind being called anti-Semitic. This is nonsense. It's nonsense, and I know that the Jews are still hated by somebody. I don't know why. I mean, one of the most bizarre things I've seen in right-wing United States is these groups that probably have never met a Jew in their life, and but are pro-Hitler because that's what right-wing can be. And so they march against Jews and death to Jews and all of that. It was always on the right wing. And then there were those people who would talk about Hollywood, but I don't know. There are probably cases of people who talked about the Jews controlling Hollywood in an anti-Jewish way. I don't know. I was told by the friend I have who knows the most about Hollywood that it was indeed run largely by Jewish people. But how that mattered, I don't know. I mean, if Hindus are running the field hockey universe, it wouldn't bother me, and I could trace it back to the Sikhs who are really good at field hockey. In North India, it's just what they do. Like in Chennai, they play chess, and damn, that Gukesh was fucking great. I really liked all the players once I got to know them, but Gukesh was the best. But back to the 9th and 10th and 11th, I did not argue on the internet. I made a couple of jokes about maybe they were in questionable taste. I don't know, but I was really struck by the Da Vinci style gliders, and in a world in which if you tend to support the little guy, you love what the Vietnamese were able to do, you against the powerhouse United States. You love the victories, the way Cuba's been able to hang on despite the United States. Another example, you maybe I don't know. There aren't many cases of the Palestinians successfully defeating Israel. So I guess on that day, my thought was, yeah, okay, they did it. That was a brilliant attack. What they accomplished there to destroy the command center on the border, and so the the one reason that the Israelis killed so many of their own people. They were just going after whoever they could. There was very little organized defense at the time. Although there are defenses within the kibbutzim, they're not apparently organized and ready for anything. So anyway, that's that. But the thing that struck me was when I didn't seek out my friend's email or Instagram posts, but then I saw one that said I think it took a picture of a sign that says Hamas is ISIS, and I thought, God, that's stupid. And so I just wrote back and said, ISIS is ISIS. Hamas is Hamas, which seemed to make sense. And that's the last I ever heard from her. And I believe it's because she's one of the U.S. Jews who has it all riding on Israel, and rather than the religion itself. I've been really moved in a positive way by the incredible number of Jews, not just in the U.S., but in Europe as well, less visibly except in England, or maybe that's just because of what I have access to. But the Jewish Voices for Peace, for instance, Naomi Klein, for instance, who seems to very much identify as a Jewish person. So if you read Naomi Klein and understand Naomi Klein, you would probably think, she's probably an atheist. Maybe she is. But she's very much a Jewish person. That's clear. But, definitely anti-Israeli for all the obvious reasons. So the thing is, that made me really wonder, if she is so sensitive to these opposition voices, and so intensely hurt by an attack on Israel. She's definitely conflating all Jewishness with the Israeli, what I think most people by now understand is a settler colonial project. Now, about that, back in 1984, and this is just to show you I shouldn't have been at all surprised. Back in 1983 or 4, I was living in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and a friend of mine was the editor of the opinion page of the newspaper. And I often wrote letters to the editor. And I wrote one about Israel, and I said that I made all what to me were the obvious comparisons between Israel and Nazi Germany. That was in the 80s. So maybe I was appearing crazy at the time, but the occupation and the apartheid nature of the state, and anyway, it was how I perceived it at the time, and he wouldn't print it. His wife was Jewish, and I believe that that even the fact that I even knew that is odd. I don't know why that would have come into play, but at some point we were friends, so at some point he might have mentioned it. But why would I don't know who of my friends are Christians and what kind. In most cases, actually, I am surprised. One of my friends here is some kind of Christian and takes it seriously, and I would have thought anything but that. He's a Bosnian Serb, and but a peaceful man, and a scholar. So I guess sometimes you just don't know what goes on in a person's mind, and but I never talked to him about it. It's something that he didn't talk much about. I was surprised when I found out that he was a regular church attendee, and so there's that. Finally, I was going to do a little research on this, but I want to talk about anti-Semite as a term. Uh, for the longest time, I always, told people, that you can't be an anti-Semite unless you hate Palestinians and Jews, and I don't know who else is Semitic, but I know the Palestinians are, or I think they are. Maybe I need to slap myself a few times and go over to Google and find out, or Wikipedia, the machine that tells you things. I got books that tell me things, but those are out of fashion. I sell them. That's why I started a press. These are to be filthy synecdoche. That's just a throwback to Samuel Beckett, the title, and the book itself. It's just a novel about a military base and some craziness that happens in the army. It's a fantastic novel, by the way, and I'm glad to sell it. And I still write too, for some odd reason. But anyway, I believe that the Jews are not the only Semites. The Palestinians are also Semites. And I was watching this show recently, a debate on YouTube, and one of the people in the debate was mayor of Jerusalem, a woman. She looked to be in her 30s. One was someone I don't know. She was progressive in the old sense of the term, I think, in the real sense of the term, not in the Trumpian sense of the term. That they would call someone like her, I guess, a Marxist or something. But she was a progressive Democrat, I think I would say. And then the other guy was, I believe he's a journalist. I've seen him many times. His name is Barghouti, I think. And he's often on these shows. And I know that what he says is generally quite sensible. I agree with almost everything he says. And he was, the mayor of Jerusalem was giving a state line about whatever she was talking about. And I don't remember exactly, but he started to encroach on the topic of proportionality, and she just started saying he was lying. The figures are all wrong. The figures are all wrong. Remember, I think we may still be in that stage, but it no longer makes sense. People would say, yeah, but that's the Hamas health ministry of health. That's the Hamas, not the Palestinian, not the Gazan Ministry of Health. It's the Hamas Ministry of Health. Imagine if you were saying, yeah, but those are the Jew numbers. those are the Jew numbers. No, those are the Israeli figures, and historically, it's turned out that the numbers from the Ministry of Health in Gaza have the number of dead and injured and so on have been closer to accurate than any other, and the Israelis actually often use their numbers to find out. And that I never hear Israeli soldiers complaining about those numbers, or Israeli generals, Israeli speakers. They never question those numbers. It's always journalists and pundits, and not Indian pundits though. Those, they're usually more sensible. So when Barghouti started talking, the woman is just talking over him and just on and on and on and on and on for about 17 seconds, and the guy just said, "Would you shut up? Shut up!" and the way it resolved itself, the woman was saying that that is a sexist term. You can't say that to a woman. You don't speak that way to a woman. And the other woman on the show, she said, well, I think it's a lot. It's I don't know, pretty rich to be talking about the. She was talking about the sexist nature of Sharia law as she may know it. I don't know. I don't know much about the daily life in Gaza because it's so in terms of Islam and sexism, that all seems kind of beside the point when they're just trying to survive in their best years. So I don't know what we can make of that. But the other woman said it's pretty rich that you talk about women being punished for having two hairs showing when already whatever 20,000 women in Gaza have been killed, and not to mention the children who the mothers cared about. It's grotesque. It's really grotesque. When people ask me how I'm doing, I almost invariably think of Gaza. Just happened on the phone. A woman I was talking to, she called about something to do with the film we're making, and she said that she asked me how I was doing, and I said, oh, kids are good, the wife is good, dog is good, but Gaza, and she said, yeah. I said, how are you doing? She said, yeah, basically the same. So anyway, anti-Semites. I used to think that maybe I should stop making the point that the accepted. I mean, because the accepted term for anti-Jew is anti-Semitic. What point is there in making the picayune comment that their anti-Semitism would be anti-Palestinian as well? But then this show that I was watching where the guy's telling the woman to shut up, he finally was able to say, I'm telling you to shut up as someone interrupting me, not as a woman. I'm not telling you to shut up because you're a woman. I'm telling you to shut up because, well, frankly, I was thinking, God, I wish he would shut the fuck up. Long after the first exchange and after the first woman said, you really should shut up. In a way, she said that, and so what the guy also said was, because she kept doing it. He said, this is what they do. This is settler colonialism right here. You don't get to talk. You don't, and I think that there's a sense in which he's not exaggerating, in which he's right. That this is just a microcosmic view of how the power, the colonial settler power, shuts people up. I mean, that's what it is. This woman didn't look at this guy as someone who had anything useful to say. She tells the very, very hoary party line, and then starts and interrupts everything that the guy says, and he said, "Shut up." And he's been on this show before, and he asked the host to control her so he can talk, otherwise he'll leave. And he got her to shut up a little bit, but it was I think an instructive moment for the anti-Semites out there. There is no longer, I think, any the only anti-Semites are, I think, those people who actually look at Jews and hate them. For whatever reason, people look at others and hate them. I don't know why. I mean, I've read a lot of history, and I still don't know why. But I've been, I felt really good about the Jewish Voices for Peace, and a lot of the Jews who are against Zionism have come across as remarkable people, and with a worldview that seems very benign, to the point where if I were subject to the influence of religion, I might choose. Well, I would choose Hinduism for sure, but I also am fond of Buddhist principles and so on. But I might look into Judaism or Semitism. I don't know. But I might. I might. But, whenever anybody calls you an anti-Semite from now on, I'm going to look this up now. I'm going to go look it up when I'm done talking here. Uh, I want to know did the Jews even colonize the term anti-Semite? I mean, that is what really struck me, and that's what I really want to say, is that I believe that the term anti-Semite has been colonized by the Jews, along with way too much territory and way too much culture. Um, um, Actually, the cultures they destroy, and then they take the land. Uh, but I think anti-Semitism is a product of the Colonial Settler Project, if I must repeat all the really intelligent people I've heard speak about this nightmare in Gaza. Um, and I also want to say I'm still a friendly neighbor, um, generally generous person, comes from being poor and choosing literature over work, um, and so this is not to plead for donations. No, 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 don't give me donations. Just don't accuse me of ruining a book post with a little talk about what's going on in the world. And what matters to me uh, more than anything, day by day, um, right now, is I think this is the worst thing that um, I I've known a lot about as it was happening since I've been alive. Um, I think that it it's why. Why? Because why is it more important than what's going on in Myanmar? Well, because I think that it's um, a matter of uh, the 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 dishonest narrative that allows for this kind of sadism is part of the Western civilization that gave birth to colonialism, and as I see it, and so that is why I think that it's more important for me to focus on than perhaps Ukraine and Russia, and I have stronger feelings about it because of the hypocrisy, and as a former citizen of the United States. Technically, I'm still a citizen. I haven't changed my passport, but I ain't going back. Um, I think that the hypocrisy, the nightmare of the whole Vietnam story, um, that the unnecessary killing, the experimentation on natives, the technologically advanced murders in Vietnam. Uh, it's all very horrific, and I think this is uh, part of the same excretion, and that's why it matters more to me than what's going on in Myanmar or Sudan. Um, is a close second, but I think if you scratch enough beneath the surface, you might find a lot more Western complicity in the story than you know of offhand. And if I'm wrong or right about that, please let me know. I'd like to know. And until then, you know, all I want to say is it looks to me like anti-Semitism is a term that the Zionists like and that has been appropriated by the Jews. Maybe it's 500 years old. I don't know, but it it needs to be thrown out. We need something more sensible if we're going to call people that, and we need to have more sensible people using the term. Choose the right anti-Jewish people to call anti-Jewish. Look a little closer, because I of all the people I know of who've been called anti-Semitic in public forums and so on, not one outside of the United States has been. So, farewell. Don't worry. Next time I'll talk about books. Maybe books by Norman Finkelstein.